Hello and welcome to another episode of Ewell Acres. Today we're going to be continuing our gardening soil amendment discussions by talking about the soil amendment Perlite and how it can better help to improve your pots and gardens. Let's get started. Quick side note, if you like what we're doing, if you're gaining value out of these videos, please don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. Not only does it help us out with the YouTube algorithm, but it also helps us so we can better spread these videos with each other, for each other, helping to learn with each other. Now, first off, looking at perlite. What perlite is perlite is a small volcanic white rock that is, when heated, it expands to have very small, porous little holes in it. And it can be most commonly mined from places like Italy, Greece, Mexico, China, and the Philippines. At least those are the major sources of it. There are other locations that it is mined, but those are the main locations for it. Primarily what perlite is used for is it's used in bulking out construction material. It's also used in insulation, and because it's a volcanic rock, it also works well being resistant to high heat. So it's used in fireplaces and other materials as a great insulation material for high heat scenarios. However, for our purposes, we only care what it's used for in the gardening world. Within the gardening world, perlite is one of the most common soil amendments that you're going to find in all of your bagged soil mixtures, your seedling mixes, all of that. Because it is a very light, porous rock material, it has a very neutral pH of about 7. Also, it allows for a tremendously great amount of drainage to prevent compaction. That's why it is a key ingredient used in soil bags, in seedling mixes, so that way things don't get too compressed. Also, it is really of that value in raised boxes, garden beds, that type of thing, to really help out with compaction. Some people will also use it as a hydroponic, soilless media to really help it out. But like I mentioned before, by and large, the best use for it is to help with water drainage. Now, this material is going to be most beneficial, to no surprise, in heavy clay soils to help prevent that compaction, so that way water and air can better flow through, so that way you're not going to get stagnant materials that could potentially suffocate your plant roots, making them much more healthy. However, they are also beneficial in sandy soils as well. Not only does it help with the water going through, but because of the small little air pockets, it also helps with a small amount of nutrient material getting caught in those holes. When you're dealing with a soil like sand, where everything just flows right through and you don't have any nutrient holding capacity, that helps to really add a little bit of soil holding nutrient capacity to very heavy sandy soils. Now, when you're dealing with this material, it used to be very rare and hard to find. However, as more and more of these mine deposits have become available, as globalism has expanded, and it's been easy to spread this material around the world, it's become much, much more commonplace. I saw it much more common starting around the early to mid-2000s. First at your specialty plant nurseries, your farm and ranch stores. Now I'm even easily finding it at hardware big box stores, your Walmarts, your Targets, places like that. I even find it at my local small Smith's grocery store. It has become very readily available. And because of that, it's also become relatively cost effective. For a small little 8-quart bag in my local area as of spring 2021, I can get it for about $5 to $6. If you want to go for larger quantities, because you do a lot of your own soil mixes, your seedling mixes that you add your perlite to it, I can get a 4 cubic foot bag for approximately $16 to $17. So by buying it in bulk, it makes it much cheaper. And because it's so easy to find, it is a relatively cheap, easy product that I would highly recommend you add. Especially for my area where I have very heavy clay soils, it is almost a necessity of a must to really help improve those soils to make the best benefit for your plants, so that way they don't suffocate with the lack of oxygen, and helping with that water flow as well. Question is, how much do you add? Now, this can be a difficult question if you're working with beds and other things like that. For me, if I'm dealing with pots, grow beds, that type of thing, on average, I'll do about 10 to 20% per total volume of the material. I'm dealing with in the ground beds, that makes it much more difficult to try and determine. So in that case, I will take a volume area, kind of spread it out, till it in or dig it in, and add a little bit every year to slowly improve it. So your actual garden beds where it's dirt in the ground makes it more difficult, but it's relatively easy with 10 to 20% for your pots, seedling mixes, garden beds. But that can vary based on what the soil is you're working with and your own special parameters. Now, overall, let's take a look at the pros and cons of this material. As we already mentioned before, it significantly helps with air and water movement, helping the soils not to be compressed to prevent that compaction. It is tremendously great for it. It also helps a little bit with CEC cation exchange, but that's a very minor attribute. Now, despite these great benefits of it being cheap, it helping out with that exchange, there is one minor disadvantage that perlite has. It is not necessarily toxic, but it has a lot of really light, fine dust that comes from the perlite. And so if you are special, have issues with breathing, that type of issues, you may want to wear a mask or water it down before you do it so those fine dust particles don't go in covering your lungs and giving you potential breathing issues. But the overall risk of that is very, very low. So what is my overall personal impressions of perlite? I personally find it a tremendously great needs value for every home gardener, commercial. Not only does it help you to make your own seedling mixes, your own soils to make gardening much cheaper, but it also really helps to improve with that air and water exchange. Not to mention, it is one of the best organic soil amendments to help really improve your soils. Overall, I would put this as one of the top primary soil amendments that I would add to help out improving the breathability of your soils and mine. So, now that we've talked about this, let us know in the comments below. What do you think of perlite? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are there other soil amendments that you find that are more valuable? Let us know in the comments below. That has been us talking about perlite, the advantages and disadvantages, and how I personally absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, if you're getting value out of these videos, don't forget to let us know in the comments, subscribe, give us a good thumbs up, and we look forward to seeing you next time.